Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your source material and really extract the most important nuggets of knowledge.
That's the goal.
Today, we're plunging into a really fascinating, complex topic, the evolution of American military leadership. We'll be looking at four extraordinary generals: George Casey, John Abizaid, Pete Chiarelli, and David Petraeus, who navigated, that whole tumultuous period from Vietnam right through to the Iraq War.
Yeah, critical time.
Our guide today is extensive excerpts from David Cloud's insightful book, The Fourth Star, Four Generals, and the E.
It's a rich collection, definitely. Wow. And our mission for this deep dive is, well, to uncover how these individuals, shaped so profoundly by personal experiences and, frankly, often differing philosophies, how they grappled with an army constantly trying to redefine itself amidst these ever-changing global conflicts.
Makes sense.
We'll explore their unique paths, their triumphs, their frustrations, too, offering you a shortcut, kind of, to understanding the profound challenges of adapting to modern warfare and leadership itself.
Okay, let's unpack this incredible journey then. Starting, I guess, with the long shadow of Vietnam and the formative early careers of these men. Vietnam's shadow and early careers, 1970s, early 1980s. Our story opens pretty dramatically, June 29, 1970, U.S. withdrawal from Cambodia. Major General George Casey Sr., 1st Air Cav Commander, is briefing reporters. He downplayed the tactical win, but acknowledged it bought some crucial time. Casey Sr. was decorated, West Point grad. His classmates back in 45 even predicted he will be the Army's best.
Yeah, he was definitely on that track. Clearly destined for 4 stars. But just a week later, tragedy.
Awful.
Casey Sr.'s Huey helicopter disappeared. Dense clouds, Vietnam's Central Highlands. His son, George Casey Jr., just a college student then, gets the news from his mother.
How devastating.
And his reaction, it was chillingly pragmatic. He said, "Mom's hopeful, but you don't go down in one of those helicopters and survive."
Wow. That's stark. Tells you a lot about the reality they were living with.
It really does. How the war permeated everything.
That loss must have deeply impacted George Jr. I mean, how could it not? He'd initially applied to West Point, sort of to please his father.
Right.
But ended up at Georgetown, less focused on the war. It's kind of wild to picture him at a protest in '68 wearing his Army jacket, only to feel awkward and take it off because it became a counterculture statement.
And yet his father, the general, was surprisingly open-minded. Told his daughter Wynne that anti-war protesters were entitled to their opinions.
That's pretty remarkable for a general at that time, isn't it? It speaks volumes.
It really does. About his character, his integrity, and that likely influenced his son. So after his father's burial, full military honors.
The very symbolic ceremony I read. Empty stirruped black stallion.
Exactly. George Jr. attended, wearing his second lieutenant bars, senators, generals there. Then he ships off to Germany.
Then the army he finds there in '71
is broken and defeated. General Davison's words. Plagued by drugs, low morale, incompetence. Davison even said, "We had to wreck the 7th Army in order to keep Vietnam going."
Just gutted the force in Europe.
Pretty much. Yet George Jr. excelled, earned respect, even became godfather to his platoon sergeant's daughter, but he bristled at being called General Casey's son.
Wanted to make his own way.
Clearly, carving his own path, which was crucial later.
Okay, so shifting gears. John Abizaid. His journey to West Point was totally different.
Yeah, a long shot, he called it. Only got in because interest in the military academies plummeted during Vietnam.
But ambitious, right? Even as a kid, Abizaid land.
Definitely ambitious. Even though his own father had grown disillusioned with the war. Abizaid quickly made his mark, though. Weak high school background, but graduated 3rd in his class at West Point.
Impressive.
But he also ran right into that changing public perception. During away football games, his color guard unit met with chants of "Sieg Heil."
God, that's awful. Stark contrast to his early hopes of fighting in Vietnam.
Exactly. Captures that tension of the era perfectly.
Then Pete Chiarelli, Seattle University, 1970. Sounds like it was intense there, too.
Oh, yeah. Literally ablaze. Anti-war protests, firebomb threats against ROTC cadets. They had to hold drills in secret locations.
Crazy. His father was a WWII vet, reservist. But Pete wasn't planning on staying in the military initially.
No, not at all. He was ready to resign in '76. That was a critical turning point.
Why happened?
The Army offered him a full scholarship for grad school, plus a teaching spot at West Point's SOSH Department of Social Sciences.
Ah, SOSH. I've heard about that place.
Yeah, unique intellectual hub, known for attracting long hairs, fostering unconventional thinking, maybe a bit dangerous career-wise, could get branded an elitist.
Right, too academic for the real Army.
Potentially. But that experience was defining for Chiarelli. Cultivated his willingness to question assumptions later on.
Okay, and the fourth star, David Petraeus,
Yeah.
West Point in 70, no military family ties, came on a soccer scholarship.
Right, meticulous cadet apparently, known for finding tricks, like those anodized brass buttons that didn't need polishing.
Huh, smart.
After graduating, he chose infantry, which, post-Vietnam,
Deeply unpopular branch.
exactly, signaled his commitment to the tough path right away.
And he found inspiration overseas.
Yeah, while stationed in Italy, he came across the story of Marcel Bidgard, that revered French general, fought in Vietnam, Algeria.
Abizaid. Yeah, a controversial but influential figure in counterinsurgency.
Profound inspiration for Petraeus. Influenced his reading, his early thinking on coin, leadership. He even kept an autographed picture.
So this connection to an unconventional foreign warrior
Yeah,
that's pretty defining early on sets him apart.
absolutely. Especially in an army maybe not quite ready for those lessons yet.
So we see these four men, all shaped by different forces: tragedy, academics, immersion, mentorship, just as the Army itself is asking huge strategic questions.
Precisely. That shadow of Vietnam forced a reckoning. 2, adapting to new realities. Cold War to counterinsurgency, 1980s, 1990s.
General Edward Scheimeyer, who'd worked for Casey Sr., interestingly, famously warned in '79 about the Hollow Army, just incapable of fighting.
Yeah, a stark warning.
Which led to the Reagan buildup. Massive defense spending. New gear, M1 Abrams tanks, and the airland battle doctrine.
Right, focusing squarely on conventional warfare against the Soviets, rapid maneuver, combined arms.
But this buildup also created pressure, didn't it, to prove the investment was worth it?
Intense pressure, case in point. The Canadian Army Trophy, that NATO tank competition. The U.S. had never won. It was embarrassing.
Even Colin Powell, Reagan's national security advisor, was watching that one closely.
He was. And Chiarelli gets tasked with training a platoon for it. High stakes.
Relentless training. Thanksgiving dinner airlifted to them in the field.
Yeah, intense focus. And Chiarelli faced personal challenges, too, dealing with a loss back home while pushing his team.
Shows the personal toll.
Definitely. Despite equipment failures, they went for it. Risky decision not to pass target info. And Delta Company finally won.
Wow. Validation for him, personally and professionally.
Hugely. His mother said his father would have been so proud. For Chiarelli, it proved he could do the real soldiering after being in academia.
So while Chiarelli's proving conventional skills in Germany, George Casey Jr. is at the National Training Center, NTC, in the Mojave.
Right. His own proving ground. Troops called him George the Animal for his energy. Focused on training, innovation.
Like deploying anti-tank missiles on the flanks.
Yeah, surprise the opposing force. A tactic remembered for decades. Unlike some others, Casey wasn't really questioning the big strategy.
He was executing.
Exactly. He embraced the Army ideal of the hardworking commander.
Okay, meanwhile, John Abizaid is getting this incredibly valuable, immersive experience in the Middle East.
Totally different kind of learning. Living in Amman, Jordan, stark apartment, experiencing cultural differences firsthand. Learning the Arab way of dealing with life's daily annoyances, as he put it.
Seeing signs of radicalization early on.
Yeah, Khomeini chants. Realizing Islam is much more than a religion. It is a way of life. He traveled widely, saw civil wars, insurgencies, even felt a bit envious of a small British unit in Oman that seemed to be actually achieving something.
And his time in Lebanon as a UN observer must have been critical.
Hugely formative, 1985, unarmed observer, saw low-intensity conflict, up-close ambushes, kidnappings, car bombs.
And this is personal for him too, right? His family was in Israel facing rocket attacks.
Yes. But he also saw the brutality of Israeli allies and, crucially, the debilitating effect a long and unsuccessful occupation has on an army.
Wow.
His conclusion: the U.S. Army, focused on tanks rolling across Europe, was totally unprepared for these messy guerrilla wars. That perspective became invaluable.
And Petraeus. He's pursuing intellectual avenues.
Guided by his mentor, General Jack Galvin, he does a PhD at Princeton, broadens his horizons, deeply influenced by Andrew Krapinovich's dissertation, The Army in Vietnam.
The one criticizing the Army's doctrinal rigidity in Vietnam.
That's the one. Petraeus saw how the Army marginalized critics like Krapinovich, banned from speaking at West Point even.
Ouch.
But he wasn't deterred, pursued a similar intellectual path.
His own studies led him to similar conclusions.
Yeah, looking at Operation Junction City, he concluded, large unit tactics do not appear to have been appropriate for what was primarily a political war and an insurgency. He ghostwrote an essay, Uncomfortable Wars, warning about low-level violence.
And his dissertation famously criticized the Powell Doctrine.
It did. Challenged that idea of just using overwhelming force. Argued for strategies limiting firepower, winning over populations in long conflicts. Very countercultural for the time.
During the Gulf War, though, he missed out on combat.
Yeah, stuck in a Pentagon staff job, much to his frustration. His first real field experience in this vein came later in Haiti, 95. Peacekeeping.
What did he take from that?
Saw the wildly optimistic assumption that civilians could quickly rebuild a shattered society. He improvised, worked with aid groups, coordinated raids, sidestepped UN rules to fund quick construction projects.
Sounds like classic Petraeus initiative.
Right. He saw it as a blueprint for a new kind of military operation. Wrote an article, Winning the Peace, which he later admitted was maybe exuberant overstatement. But the direction was clear. 3. Iraq War and Divergent Strategies, 2003-2006.
Okay, so fast forward to the lead up to the Iraq War.
Yeah.
These different experiences must have led to different perspectives.
Absolutely. Abizaid, remembering Lebanon, had a much darker view. Warned the occupation would be a mess because of the deep ethnic and sectarian hatreds.
Did he push for post-war planning?
He did, but got dismissed by Bush administration officials. Complained, they have no idea what they are doing, I may just pack it in. He fought hard to get the CENTCOM job, overseeing those wars.
And Petraeus.
More optimistic, famously said, wouldn't it be wonderful if this place turns out to be something? A real contrast there.
Once the invasion happened, Abizaid from CENTCOM HQ in Qatar.
From his windowless office, yeah. Saw the insurgency rising, checkpoint shootings, concluded pretty quickly, we've got about a year to make a difference. Then we have got to think about getting out.
Wow, that early on.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Petraeus is commanding the 101st Airborne in Mosul, focusing on winning over Sunni Arabs, working around that disastrous de-Baathification policy from the CPA.
His mantra was everywhere, right? Yeah. What have you and your element done today?
Exactly. Pushing constantly for tangible results on the ground.
Then Pete Chiarelli arrives in Baghdad, March 2004. What's his immediate focus?
Reconstruction. Electricity, water, jobs. He saw that as the key to reducing violence, not just kinetic ops, not just fighting.
He was fascinated by the Middle East, but got frustrated quickly.
Yeah, frustrated with USAID's focus on big, slow projects. Felt the Green Zone civilians were fooling themselves. Criticized Bremer shutting down that newspaper, which instantly sparked protests.
And when his troops were ambushed in Sadr City, he felt powerless.
Powerless to intervene effectively, led him to constantly push for more armor, better protection for his soldiers.
And he proposed that one war strategy, like Abrams in Vietnam.
Right. His division, controlling both the fighting and the reconstruction budget, argued passionately building schools is pointless without water or electricity.
How did that go down?
Ambassador Negroponte, who'd been in Vietnam, reportedly grew tired of hearing about Chiarelli's bold plans. That disconnect again.
Frustrating. Okay, so General George Casey Jr. takes command, July 2004.
Right. And his first staff meeting is telling. He asks, okay, who's my counterinsurgency expert? The staff was stumped, didn't really have one readily identified.
Wow. That says a lot about the Army's focus at that point.
It does. Casey initially pursued a more limited mission, train Iraqi forces, reduce U.S. troops, trying hard to avoid that Vietnam quagmire mindset, sticking closer to the Powell Doctrine idea, clear military objective, then get out.
He was known for being analytical, a Jesuit at heart, liking to hash things out on paper.
Loved revising documents, yeah. But also under constant pressure from Rumsfeld, those infamous snowflakes, short critical notes.
Rumsfeld even told him to stop saying, so much.
Apparently so. Micromanagement from afar. Then, November 2005, that secret torture prison run by the Iraqi Interior Ministry is discovered.
A major crisis.
Huge. Casey presents the evidence to Minister Job, who denies knowing. Casey believes he did know.
But what does he do?
Defers to Ambassador Khalilzad on the political handling. Says, as a military guy, I didn't feel like I ought to dictate to the Prime Minister. End result, no one was fired.
Sticking to that Powell Doctrine interpretation, avoid the messy political stuff.
Exactly. But doubts are growing elsewhere. Abizaid initiates a meeting with Casey and Petraeus, basically saying, figure this out. Worried about the sectarian violence.
And boots on the ground are seeing problems, too.
Definitely. Colonel H.R. McMaster in Telefar is actively rebelling against the strategy. Requests for more troops ignored. Laments we're managing this war, not fighting it. Clear signs the official approach isn't working.
While this is happening in Iraq, Petraeus is back stateside at Fort Leavenworth.
Launching his own insurgency, as the book calls it. against the Army's outdated counterinsurgency doctrine.
Right, rewriting the manual.
Yeah.
FM 324.
Gabbard of Brain Trust dramatically rewrote it. Famous line, "The more you protect the force, the less secure you may be." Population-centric approach.
And he made sure people knew about.
Oh, yeah. Acted as his own publicist, lavish press coverage. He understood the information war.
Back in Iraq, Chiarelli seeing more problems.
Witnessing Maliki's government taking overtly sectarian actions, removing Sunni commanders, leaking info about U.S. raids. He's also dealing with the fallout from the Haditha killings investigation, disciplining Colonel Steele.
A well-known officer. That must have caused ripples.
Caused some to question Chiarelli's approach, yeah. By July 2006, Baghdad is falling apart. Casey reluctantly agrees to extend a striker brigade.
A tough admission for him.
A very hard admission. We need to keep more coalition troops here than I originally intended. A clear signal the old strategy had failed. 4. The surge and new command, 2007 onwards.
So the stage is set for a change. Petraeus takes command in February 2007. The transition sounds awkward.
Yeah, a bit. Petraeus arrives and in a video conference with Casey apparently makes an offhand comment that alludes to Casey's tough confirmation hearing. Casey, after 2.5 brutal years, is exhausted. Still believes his strategy made progress, struggles to admit failure, even with things falling apart.
Understandable. Maybe, but difficult.
Very. Petraeus comes in with the surge strategy, demands more troops, tells his generals we want them to tell us no, push the Pentagon for resources.
His command style was different too. Less patent, more.
Managed by slides. Daily briefings covering everything. Chicken embryo imports, electricity output, turning civilian problems into military ones.
Embracing that one war concept Chiarelli advocated for, in a way.
In a way, yes, but driven from the top by Petraeus. Focus on bottom-up reconciliation, embedding U.S. forces deeply with local leaders, even former insurgents.
Like Captain Michael Starr's work, paying former insurgents, brokering local peace deals.
Exactly. Stars recognize the reality. Loyalty is constantly shifting here, and there is no moral component to it. The surge was about presence, protection, local deals.
Meanwhile, Casey becomes Army Chief of Staff. Now he's back in D.C., in the same house where his father's funeral reception was held.
Full circle, yeah. Facing new challenges, worried the Army's losing its conventional edge, being consumed by counterinsurgency.
And he bristled at criticism from younger officers, like Lieutenant Colonel Paul Yingling.
Yeah, Yingling accused generals of lacking moral courage. Casey believed Koyan skills were crucial, but worried about losing other capabilities. Advocated for an army ready for hybrid wars, that mix of conventional, irregular, cyber.
A balanced approach.
That was his goal. But he struggled to finish Yingling's essay. Found it offensive, never wrote the suggested thank you note, showed his internal conflict.
Chiarelli, though, was more sympathetic to Yingling's argument.
More sympathetic, yeah. Hoped for an officer corps that was more intellectually freewheeling, like that Sarch department he knew. He served as SecDef Gates' senior military assistant, still pushing for reconstruction funds, better gear.
But he expressed disappointment later.
Openly admitted his biggest disappointment. If I had got involved in Iraqi governance and economics, I got my hands slapped. It was from the embassy, and it frustrated the hell out of me.
Still that civil-military disconnect.
Exactly. And despite his experience, he was passed over for the top Iraq command again. A profound blow after all his dedication.
The surge under Petraeus did show results, though. Violence dropped.
It did. His farewell ceremony featured an Iron Mike statue, symbol of the infantry ideal. And he exchanged letters with his hero Bigard, who now saw him as an equal.
Quite the recognition.
As Casey prepared to leave Iraq, he gathered Iraqi ministers, draped his arms over them, assured them, "You guys are going to be fine. You know what to do."
But did he believe it?
The book suggests he was probably the only one in the palace who believed it. Both he and Chiarelli recognized military gains were fragile without political and economic progress.
What a journey for all four. Reflecting on them, it's so clear how individual experiences shaped their beliefs, their strategies. Vietnam, NTC, Lebanon, Sarch, Princeton.
Absolutely. From the jungles to the deserts, you see integrity, curiosity, commitment to soldiers defining their paths, but in very different ways.
Their stories really highlight the immense pressure, don't they? The tension between conventional and unconventional war, balancing military aims with nation building.
And that constant struggle within the institution itself. True leadership, it seems, often means questioning assumptions, embracing new ideas, sometimes even fighting that insurgency against your own organization, like Petraeus did with the doctrine.
So as we wrap up, what stands out to you, the listener? Reflecting on these approaches, Casey limiting the military scope, Petraeus' one war and intellectual fight, Chiarelli pushing for economic development,
Right.
it really poses a crucial question, doesn't it? In today's world of hybrid threats, interconnected challenges, what kind of army and what kind of leadership do we actually need for whatever comes next? What are those hidden costs when an army prioritizes one kind of war over another? And how do those costs ultimately shape the leaders themselves and the nations they serve?
Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you're leaving with a clearer understanding and maybe, yeah, a few more questions to explore on your own.